von den erfolgreichsten Trainer der DEL-Geschichte dar. 8-mal Meister, 5-mal mit den Eisbären Berlin, 3-mal mit dem EHC Red Bull München und er steht vor seinem 1000. Spiel als Headcoach in der DEL. Don Jackson, nice to have you here.
Thank you.
Mr. Jackson, there's one sentence we heard very often from you. It's all about the players. But that's not our plan for today. Our plan is it's all about Don Jackson, because you're going to coach your 1000th game as a head coach in the DEL. So thinking about this huge number, 1000 games, who is coming into your mind? Who have been the most important people in your career?
Well, it's a multitude, actually. Of course, so I'm at this now for 38 or 39 years. So you can go, way back then as to, the coaches that have the biggest impacts. And there was Kevin Constantine, who was actually played against him in the finals last year in Salzburg, and where he I probably got my best learning experience there with Pierre Paget. Before that, gave me my first coaching job. And, we've been together off and on for, that many years. So then, certainly there's, back to the playing days where, I got with a coach that I was together with 5 years that had biggest impact on my playing career. Then together with Glenn Sather and Edmonton, they give me the big chance to play. So then, going back, and then now we're going to move forward again. But those experiences I've taken with me through the whole journey. To me, it's about obviously getting the best players that we can get, that we do before the season starts, and then it's putting it to work, and building a team, because whether it be a hockey team or whether it be any culture, whether it be family, strong teams make it. So that's what we look for, and then after that it's what you do on the ice. And so then those experiences I've been able to take from way back to where, to me, those years in Edmonton was the foundation for developing, if there's a style of hockey that we play, that's it. We didn't have Wayne Gretzky after that, but we had some damn good players. Okay, so we can't overlook the fact that I've been fortunate to be with organizations that whose management has put together good players for us, and go from there.
We're going to talk about some big names like Wayne Gretzky later. Let's first talk about your career as a player. You were known as a tough defender. You won the Stanley Cup twice. What would the coach Don Jackson today say about the player Don Jackson back then? Would you have this guy on your team right now?
Well, yeah, that was an evolution as well, because it's there was the skill part, and then there's the physical part, and the physical part for me didn't advance until I was really desperate. Okay, really desperate to make it or not. And so that's where I had to make some changes, and I had to be fully aware of those changes and make sure that I made them a priority, every day. And and that's it. So that's on top of the fact that we had a really good team feeling, a team attitude, and I was in my career. I was asked. Especially the early days, I was asked, if Mark Messier and Wayne Gretzky were jealous of each other, and that was, the first from anybody's thought that had ever been around those guys. That was never the case. So that was a funny question that I got, and then moving forward. Through other experiences, shortly after that, we came to town with the Rangers for a year, and where that's where I started behind the bench, where Phil Esposito, when I was declared unfit to play for the rest of the season because of an injury, that he asked me to join him behind the bench when he came to take over the team. So that was, I think, basically where my coaching career started. And then I, quit, went home, worked in the business for 2 years, and then came back to coach. And thanks to Pierre Paget, he's the guy I interviewed with first, and he said, go get a job anywhere. I went and got it, and the phone rang 2 years later, and then I was in the NHL.
Were there also things you learned for your coaching career playing with the great one, Wayne Gretzky?
Yeah,
or
basically it was a team style. We had speed and we had skill, and it was an opportunity for me to be physical, and we stood plays up a lot. We forechecked hard, and there was a period where I went to NHL.com and there was this archive game, and it was 1983, and so it was against the Calgary Flames. So back then it was a division format, and we were playing Calgary in the second round, and I heard Howie Meeker on there say at a break that. And in the second round, that the Edmonton Oilers had scored seven shorthanded goals already. Okay, and by the end of the game, it was 9. So those are things that I wasn't really aware of, but it was highly unusual that would ever happen again. And so those things happened, and there was a time when we were shorthanded, and Gretzky and Curry went forechecking, and I knew that the defensemen were very uncomfortable that they were forechecking. I knew what they were going to run the puck, so I stepped in there, and the defensive defenseman of all defensive defensemen was screaming down the right side, and I threw it across, and he was so happy. But those guys didn't even get an assist. So that's the funny part.
So why did you decide to become a coach?
It was suggested to me by others, and I had a friend who was a player that started coaching and called me up, and I wasn't even really looking, and that's kind of where it started. It was Glenn Sather had a big impact, and as far as how he treated players. And so that was really the most interesting part after being with a lot of teams and a lot of coaches and so forth. It was how he treated his players. And he was like a father to all of us, and really looked after the guys and off the ice, and demanded a lot on the ice. And we were challenged, surely, regardless of who we were and what team we were and who we played for. But so those are the principles I've really taken with me.
So you've been coaching every single season since 1988 now. That's more than 30 years. Have you never been interested in switching to another job, something like general manager or so?
Well, no, actually not. No, that didn't dawn on me. Funny conversation I had with Doug Sotart, who worked with us a bit, but he was a manager and I was a coach, and he said, I'd never want to be a coach. I thought about it. I said, you know what, I'd never want to be a manager. So that's why we clicked there for a little bit, and so that stuck with me. I liked coaching, and it was turned into a dream.
So in the beginning, you were head coach in leagues like the IHL and the WHL, and mainly assistant coach in the NHL. And you worked with big names there as well: Joe Sakic, Mats Sundin, Jaromir Jagr, just to name a few. How path-breaking was it to work with those guys for your career as a coach?
Well, especially when you look back, Joe Sakic was a first rounder, and I came in the second year, and the guy was, when we do the skating, he was he worked so hard, and so what the coaches told me is that didn't happen the year before, and so after his first year of playing, that he made the commitment to become a harder worker, and went from there. Matt Sundin was another young player, and these are guys that of course when I played and coached in the minors, they didn't have MAGENTA SPORT televising across the country, and so all I had was the opportunity to read once in a while. But these players who, while I was coaching in the minors and focusing there, that all of a sudden you get the opportunity to come up and coach these guys, when during those days without the media like it is now, you didn't know much about those guys as players, but you eventually learned once you got to know them, and then yeah, it's I've been fortunate.
And then in 2004, you came to Germany, worked here all the time, 1 year in Austria. Why Germany?
Well, one reason is because I was looking for a job, okay? And so then, when it happened, it's, just parlayed into where I came in February, and actually it was Red Bull brought me here as a guest, and then when I asked them, I realized they were hiring for a coach. I asked them if I could get them my resume, and they hired somebody else. And so then I went to Berlin and met up with Peter Lee and Pierre Paget, and then I joined them from February to the end. And then Lance Nethery, who was the manager in Dusseldorf for the first year, we played together for a part of a year in Wichita, and he offered me the position. So that's how it started, and then the rest just kind of grew from there.
One question at this point. Once you gave us a little sample of your German at Magenta Sport. You said, der frühe Vogel fängt den Wurm. I think you learned it from Hartmut Nickel, right?
Hartmut Nickel, yeah.
So why did you never...
From him viel gelernt.
Yeah, yeah?
Oh, yeah, yeah.
So, but why did you never learn proper German, or did you learn it and never use it?
I mean, I studied it. I've done press conferences with it, and I've always had some help. My talent is I can spell almost every German word, and I could do it. But it ends up being that over the course of the days and the weeks is that I don't really socialize in German because I'm just doing hockey and we speak English in the room. What I did focus on was I knew those terms and phrases that were hard to translate, that I always learned the German expression for it so that the German players understood. And then, and it could be whereas in fast im Deutsch sprechen, mit Markus Schreiber and, seinen staff.
So you talked about some people like Pierre Paget, who gave you your first job in Germany. Peter John Lee.
In the NHL.
In the NHL as well, yeah, that's right. Peter John Lee is another name from Berlin. How important was he for your career?
So Peter, he was great. I think our personalities clicked. We worked hard, and we had a lot of laughs, and no different than we do with Christian Winkler. And from there, he made it clear to me, what he wanted from me. And he was going to get the best players, and I was to teach him the defense. And so, coming from Edmonton, I was always the offensive coach, but I don't look at the game that way anymore. To where it's because it's a 50-50 game. You're playing offense half the time, you're playing defense the other half, and there's not much margin. It's not like European football where Bayern Munich's possessing the ball 8% of the time. That doesn't even happen in the NHL. So 58% of the time possession of the puck is the top when you're playing well. So that's the analytics. So that's what I learned from them.
So you mentioned Lance Nethery. You must be very thankful also towards him because he gave you your first head coach job in Germany. Right?
In the DEL. And he was the guy, was very serious and had a great sense of humor too. So we had a lot of laughs and we had a lot of challenges because he knew he made the transition as a player and then had a long coaching career before I came. So he was knew the things that I was going to have to learn. And then there was the difference between just say the population of hockey in North America versus Germany or Europe. So he kind of got me through the fundamentals of what to expect and how things are. And so that was real helpful because I feel like there's some North American coaches that come here that never become fully aware. It's only the way we did it back home. And so we brought as much of that on the ice as possible. And then, of course, there's, and then, of course, we had the players. So that's, when I talk about the players, that's where I go. Because it's them that go out there, and when the final buzzer blows and you won the championship, they're the guys that are out there, and they get the job done.
And another name is Hartmut Nickel. He's not with us anymore, but he was a special person for you as well, right?
Yeah, he was. Yeah, he was a very funny guy, and he used to come up to me and every day he'd grab my head and knock heads and say, "You talk about the championship, it deserves to come now," So, and he said it every day. And then after that, it was, so we won that year. And so the next year he came up to me, bang, 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 3 times on the head together, and "Zvite the Kampnok." So he said that every day for the year. So those things kind of grew, like, as you can imagine, and the way it went. So then he was special to all the guys.
Yeah. So who was the one that taught you how to play empty net? Because you're known for it, for pulling the goalie very, very early. And there's one popular situation back in 2006. You were playing Cologne with Düsseldorf and you were down by 1 goal, and you pulled your goalie 5 minutes before the end to have a 6-against-3 power play. Right. Your team went on to score 3 goals in 95 seconds, win the game, win the series. That's amazing.
Right. So with statistics that I would have piling on my desk in the NHL, I used to page through them. And when you're behind in the third period by 1 goal, the chances of you winning the game are like so small. Okay, that if you pulled the goalie and got scored against and lost the game, it was never a wrong decision, because the chances of you winning the game was so small. And I'm going to tell you, it's the chances of winning the game was less than 10%, and those were the statistics that showed it. Whether in the third period teams changed the scores a lot, but that was the end result. So I felt that, especially the way Lance was bugging me about the power play, because we didn't feel it was good all year long. We did make a few changes, and the fact that basically what I told him when we decided to pull the goalie, that I knew we had the right guys out there offensively, okay, but there's always the moment when you lose the puck, and that happens 6-5, 6-4, 5-3. That always happens, okay. So that was the thing that I focused on. Is that when you lose the puck, you got to make sure that you stop and get right back on it. You can't be one of these offensive guys who are out there doing circles and expecting somebody else to get the job done for you. Every guy had to do that. Well, needless to say, I hardly remember it other than the goal. And the guys set themselves up and put themselves all in the right spot, in net front and slot, and then of course when the goal went in, it deflated Cologne emotionally. So then the next goal came, and then the next one. So that was the point behind that.
So then you moved back to Berlin, and you established a legacy there. You won 5 championships in 6 years. Mm-hmm. Tell us about this time.
Well, after the first playoff, after the first championship, first thing Peter Lee said on the bus when we got there, "You weren't supposed to win this year." That was obviously a joke, but so anyway, there's when I get questioned about these kind of things back, and even in those days about whatever, it's like I can hardly think past tomorrow. Okay, and so it's game by game, and that's all I can focus on. And so the planning part is something that Peter always did, and I always got the reminders. And I went home every night thinking about what we're going to do to get better the next day. And truthfully, that's where all my energy was spent. And then getting the guys to work. We worked hard. The teams are younger then, I guess. That's what I'm finding out now, because the American League decided up their money to keep the guys back home for as long as they could. But we had a lot of young guys, and we worked. The practices were hard, and it was we did every day we did. The times the practices were fine, but we did a lot of hard work.
And it was a special generation, right, with Jens Baxman and André
André
Rankel and Frank Hörtler, who just recently won his 9th title.
That's right, yeah. And every year was an opportunity to ask, why you won instead of why you lost. Okay, because there's only one team that wins, and that is, it was 1 year that I look back and and of course, if you ask everybody why we won, everybody's got a different answer. This player, this power play, this line, this that, and I look back the 1 year and said we had two German defensemen. When they weren't playing the power play, who could defend and they could really skate. And it's kind of like I pointed at that as a big reason why we won.
So there's one question every German hockey fan asked once. What's the secret behind your success?
Well, the organizations and the player. I mean, so, let's face it, you see where we've been and you see the organizations that have, fished in the top of the league for, the years and I can't be more grateful for, that, and that can never be overlooked. And then the players, again, we were there last year. We were, the last game wasn't happy about it all, but even the year before, about the way we played. And so we've tried to go from there. And, and there's a lot of variables, obviously, that come with the players. And Christian made some big moves last year that really picked it up for us. And so there you go. It's not only the players, but it's the coaches and the management that are a huge team. And, that's just a thrill to be part of.
So how do you keep up to date year for year? Because, as you said before, hockey is always developing and changing.
Mm-hmm. Day by day, and certainly that, I've got coaching colleagues too that are smart, and I get challenged there, and they can challenge me, and I would say call me names or anything you want, but that doesn't happen. But we get emotional and we work things out, and when they're looking for when they have questions, I have to find answers, okay? And sometimes they help me find the answer, and then we get better.
Okay, and how much work do you put into all this? Is it hockey 24/7?
Well, almost, especially when you wake up at 4 a.m. and the first thing that comes to your mind are, these certain players that, you need to get to. And so that's come. So now that Matt's been head coach in Salzburg for 3 years, he's waking up at 4 a.m.
So how does it all look? Are you watching games all day long? Are you talking to colleagues? Are you thinking about tactics?
Well, thinking about tactics and watching, and.
So how does a typical day in the life of Don Jackson looks like?
Well, you get up, and I have to do a lot more work physically, okay, than I used to, and so I'll get up and do some stuff in the morning in my apartment, and then have something a bit of nourishment, and then get off. To the rink, and usually they're there before me, and that's it.
And how would a perfect day in Don Jackson's life would look like without hockey?
Oh, without hockey?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it would be the family for sure, and that would be it. I mean, it's all I do when I'm outside of hockey.
So what role does family play for you? A big role, I guess.
Yeah, of course in the summertime, and then my wife joins me probably more in September, and then last year she stayed the whole year, and didn't take any trips back. But and then the FaceTime has been awesome. And it really works for my two grandsons because they remember us, and we have conversation every day.
There's a very famous quote by a former player of yours, Darren Quint. He said, "Don Jackson always gives you a good feeling. He takes you serious as a person, not only as a player." This is the biggest compliment you can get, right?
Sounds good. Yeah.
So, and we know that you often give special treatment to veterans, to older players, so they get a day off in order to rest or to manage family, business. That's not very common. Why do you do that?
Well, otherwise it's a battle, okay? And it's not just a battle, but it's a negative. And so all of those things aren't worth that day, that battle, that negative. And I've had to learn, from would have been, Lance or Peter Christian, all these things that it takes. And, we've definitely established a tradition where, things are family first in almost every situation. And the foundation of our pyramid is character and leadership. And, the nice thing is that when a player leaves, the first thing you hear is that, how grateful he is to being able to play with a great group of guys. So, in our opinion, if you're a guy, you don't fit in the room, then, you don't belong. But eventually, everybody with our leadership group, that they turn it around in there and they really do the job in there. And I'm thankful for the work that those guys have done, because the alternative is that I have to go in there. Okay, so that's not near as good.
So did you also study something like psychology, or did you read a lot of
No,
books? Or
never really
natural?
did. Never. I can't say I didn't read any books, but it's the people that I've been fortunate to be around, and been in several NHL locker rooms, and no locker room ever felt like it did with the Oilers, and it was because of the manager, and what he did with friends, what he did with the players' friends and families, and that kind of thing. So they were, always welcome in the room, and in another team I would have been on, it wasn't that way. And it showed up a bit. I felt it because I knew what it was like the other way.
So we know you as a very respectful and calm coach, but there has also been a different side of you. Back in the days when you were head coach of the Cincinnati Cyclones, you punched a mascot. You got suspended for 10 games. What do you think about this incident almost 30 years later?
Well, it's there, whatever. So when Derek Meyer joined us, our coaching staff in Berlin, I looked up his playing background, and he was in Atlanta that season. So we're on the ice scrimmaging at the end, so it didn't take much of my attention. But I said, "Hey, Derek, I heard you were, there. I saw that you were there in Atlanta. In that were you in that game?" He said, "Don, I was standing in front of the bench. I saw the whole thing." So there is a story behind it, and there is a reason why, and it wasn't pretty. But I never got suspended from the game. They never got kicked me out of the game because I was definitely assaulted, and which was the part that wasn't caught on camera.
And then just a few years ago in a Champions Hockey League game, used the F word quite often towards
the what now?
The F word.
I see. Okay, yeah.
Towards a referee. What happened there? Because you seemed like a volcano.
Oh, that was a Champions League game.
A Champions Hockey League game.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'll say it to this day, I've never seen an incident like that happen ever in any game of hockey ever, and it was wrong. They could have corrected it. I asked them to correct it. Everybody knew it. Christian and the manager was up there standing together. They both knew it, and that there was somebody made a decision. Okay, that was the wrong choice, and that was when after the referee put his arm up for the penalty, that they stopped the clock, and they didn't put the 16 seconds back on the clock, and so they had played out a 5-on-3 situation at the end of the game. Fortunately, we ended with score tied, so we could win it in overtime. But so that's the story.
So talking about Champions Hockey League, you reached the final with Munich in 2019 as the first and only German team. Was this even a bigger success than winning championships in the DL?
Oh, well, I don't measure the size of the success. I just measure the success. And certainly we haven't won Champions League. and we've been close. My biggest lot of learning, and my biggest threat came when I was playing against a Czech team out of the DEL for the first time. I thought, well, they're skilled. They might be faster than us, and so instead of laying back and playing the trap, I decided to say, look, if we let those guys get their speed, it's going to be dangerous. So that's where you get to them and get aggressive on them before they can get speed. So that's kind of basic theme.
Okay, and that's all part of German hockey, growing and growing. And we've been talking about Pierre Pagé before. Many, many years ago, he said Germany was going to win a medal in a big tournament one day, and that's what Germany did in 2018 in the Olympics. Yeah. What do you think about the development of German hockey since you've been here?
Well, the one thing Pierre brought he brought this aggressive style. He wasn't always nice, but whenever he'd get in a press conference, he'd be mad at a coach that played the trap because he felt it was ruining the game. So that's how he feels about the game, and so that part of it, nobody had to coax me to play an aggressive style, and not only that is that there was a point, I don't know, I heard a comment from between Christian and Peter about to where we could play faster. The teams could play faster, and they could play more aggressive as far as from the national program. And that part, I know that Tony's done a good job and brought in, and so then of course congratulations to Marco and Sturm for the great job. Of course they didn't win that medal, but we just think the style should be, and what ends up being there's more skating, and skating is the biggest part of the game. Not the biggest, it's part of the game, and the skill and the scoring, of course, defending and all those things, all add up.
Yeah. Munich, you're working with a lot of young German guys. You have the academy in Salzburg. Does that also keep you kind of young to develop guys like JJ Peterka, Justin Schütz, Julian Lutz, and so on?
Yeah, it's they come from from the times where they developed a lot of skill. They had the power. That's one thing they were blessed with for sure. And because it's hardly when you're 17 years old that you've lifted a lot of weights, right? So these guys, basically both Schütz and Peterka, when they did the power test, they were on the top of our team. And those are, for me, it's the science part. It's the muscle fiber, and they were blessed with it. And then to take it further is the opportunity to they're able to skate and have the speed as to they got to make their game better to make those next steps.
So what else do young players have to bring in order to be successful?
Well, certainly for me, when I talk to players about how good is he, how tough is he, can he skate? So the physical part is an element, and I had to learn it way before I made it, and so that part helped me make the next step, and that and the training.
Yeah. So do you think you have this academy in Salzburg, which is a great thing? Do you think Germany would need more of those academies?
Well, I'm not sure of the population, of the academies. I know in Berlin and Mannheim and in Munich here, we're going to have, basically once we get the rink built, we're going to have like another academy, because the population of hockey players has grown so much in Munich that definitely it's. I think that having those facilities available to you, readily. Is a big deal, and the game can grow. Certainly, I would never imagine that they would outpace German football or European football, But I think that there's definitely room for growth, and it's showing here in Munich right now.
So how optimistic are you about the future of German hockey?
Well, I mean, I have to say very optimistic. Certainly there's been the numbers of players that have played in the NHL from Germany. Markus Sturm and Marcel Gottsch and so many other players. But there's more to come, and so that's the upbeat feeling that I have, and I'm very proud to have been coaching for the DEL, coaching in the DEL, and being here in these special moments where the teams have had success, and Leon Draisaitl was the first round pick. I saw him play his first game, and we had a reunion at that time, and he fit right in game one.
And talking about future, any idea how long you want to continue coaching?
It's been year by year, that's for sure, especially at this stage.
Okay, so is it the motivation to keep on going until the SAP Garden opens in Munich?
Yes, yeah, it's been a motivation, and so we're really happy to see it's gone this far, and we want it to happen as soon as possible.
So what do you expect from the new season? Munich hasn't won the championship since 2018.
Yeah, it's been one of those things that's it's been close, especially last year. Even though we were in the final, it doesn't feel that close because of the way the last games ended. We won game one, and the lost 3 in a row. So that's a big hurdle to overcome. It's with 3 rounds we need to get that job done. So I'm optimistic. This year we're a little faster, and we're a little tougher. We've brought some grit into our lineup, and with guys that have good skill.
And the biggest rivals for the championship, Berlin, Mannheim?
Well, I'm looking at both those clubs, obviously. Definitely, we had Berlin in the finals, and they were great.
So the reigning champions are once again the Eisbären Berlin, your former club, and once you said you're still part of the Eisbären family. How was the final for you, like losing with your family right now against your old family?
Well, I've been asked that question a lot of times, and I kind of started saying it to my wife. Are you ready? And we'll be ready when the puck drops.
Thank you for your time. I wish you all the best, and I hope that we'll have you some more years in the DL.
Great, thank you very much. Yeah, nice interview. Thank you.
Alle Spiele live, nur bei Magenta Sport.